Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam on this beautiful Mental Health Monday. We are powered by the OBBM Network. You can catch us on all your streaming platforms. Hey, how's it going, Sam?
Hello, partner. It is going great. Another, coming off another busy week right into this week. And it just is every time I can't turn on the TV anymore and put on any news. I just figure like if something's really like burning down that I need to know about, somebody will reach out because it's enough. It really is.
I'm with you. The news is not the news anymore. It seems like it's getting more violent each and every day. And a lot of that is spilling over to our kids. I don't know, maybe I'm aging myself, but 20 years ago when all these video games came out, everybody was worried about the violence that it was going to cause in our children. And we're seeing some of that roll over because I don't think kids are really understanding the consequences of their actions anymore. They're doing stuff that is really taking people's lives and others' lives. It's not the fist fight or the pushing and shoving match now. It's everybody wants to pull out a gun. Everybody wants to stab somebody or stalk somebody or do some horrific damage to somebody. And I don't understand where the kid's mindset has gone or where we lost that. Because back in our day, we weren't thinking about bringing guns to school. We weren't thinking about, stabbing anybody or shooting anybody. We fought. We had our fights. We had our disagreements. We were held accountable for those. And then, we moved on. But it seems like nowadays, every time we turn on the TV, we're finding something that's happening either in a college campus or on school grounds. Now, I'm glad that they have started putting resource officers into the schools. But you know what? Our law enforcement is so thin right now, to take those extra officers to put them into schools, it puts a strain on the rest of the community, But with our guests tonight, they have a system that I think would work. And, we are pouring money into so many different programs that are failing, that are not really generating any positive effect. This program that they have together will promote the school safety, will promote child safety. This is something that every parent should get behind and support and talk to their congressmen and women in their town and their community and say, hey, if we have extra money, if we have a bond, if we have a grant, this is where it should go because, our children's safety is the most important.
Well, you just said the key thing, talking about money and bonds and stuff that a lot of parents believe that, once the kids get to school, that like the school's in charge of the safety. And yes, they are. However, not every ISD is created equal, and not everybody, bringing to the private schools as well, can afford to fund, I'll call it proper school security. Because when we bring our guests on, you guys out there listening and watching on wherever you're watching from, you will understand what I mean by proper school security. So without further ado, let's bring on Matthew, Rachel, and Yehuda from the Allegiance Project Foundation. Matthew, we will start with you. Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having us on, Sam and John. It's a great opportunity. We love what you all do for the community, and especially for our first responders and law enforcement. So we are incredibly blessed by this opportunity. So my name is Matthew Easter. I'm the founder of Allegiance Project Foundation. We'll get into more of what we do, but a little bit later. But we're a 501c3 that hires veterans for school security. And with my background in mental health, my background in leadership, and working for various nonprofits and being a leadership consultant for business, I never really had a desire to own my own business. It was always wanting to help someone else, help structure what they were doing and be a part of their mission. And after the events of Uvalde, I was really led to start this organization as a solution, all because my wife is an elementary school teacher. She's the main motivation behind what I do, making sure that there are not only affordable but viable solutions for school safety and sustainable solutions to make sure that she's safe. Because I can't really talk about my background without talking about her. I always introduce her as my better three quarters. She's my best friend. And she's such a big part of why we exist. So that's a bit about my background. I've been in the security industry for over 20 years, had a little MMA background, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, all that kind of stuff, some fun stuff in the cage. But realistically, I'm the only civilian on our team that just had an idea, and I've got a heart to serve our veterans. I'm a strong school safety advocate, and I'm the first guy to put his money where his mouth is, in the sense of everyone's been saying we should hire veterans for school security, and I'm just the first person to make it happen. So
yes, you do have a robust background team. I think we lost Rachel. I was just going to say, it not only includes a Secret Service agent, Rachel, who hopefully will pop back on as a Treasury agent. You're bringing the experience and drawing from the physical security world, but also the experience of kind of veterans. We train differently, right? Veterans, law enforcement, we train differently. So when it comes to responding, God forbid, ever to a school shooting or an incident, we're running to it. Well, hopefully everybody else is getting out of our way. So until Rachel comes back on, why don't we pass it over to Yehuda Remer, and you guys know him as the Pew Pew Jew out there. I love it. We run into each other at the range every once in a while, but he is a member of this team. Yehuda, please introduce yourself to everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app.
Yeah, so my name is Yehuda Remer, and as you said, I have a whole brand called the Pew Pew Jew. I write children's books on firearms safety, firearms education, history of the Second Amendment for children. I've got 10 books out. A relatively nice size social media presence. I started off working in Second Amendment advocacy, and I'm blessed to have worked with Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. And when Matt and I talked originally, and he's like, hey, we want you on board. I'm like, well, this is a no-brainer. This is an actual solution to school shootings. And as a Second Amendment advocate, we're always looking for, well, what's the answer to school shootings? Well, Allegiance Project is that answer. So I hopped on board as a director of outreach, utilizing my network and vast social media presence to help bolster and connect with other brands and companies for Allegiance Project.
That's fantastic. And Rachel, right before you dropped off, we were talking
Welcome back.
Yes, we were talking about the robust experience that you guys have as part of Allegiance Project, and we Steve is Secret Service. You're with the Treasury Department. Tell everybody watching and listening a little bit about you and your background.
Absolutely. So I have the pleasure of being a special agent in federal law enforcement. I've been doing it for about 15 years. In addition to my law enforcement career, I am the mother of 7 children. So I am highly invested in school security. I like to say that we have very aware children in our household. They come from a line of individuals who are aware of what's going around them. We are a household of protectors. So I think my children are kind of ahead of the game in their schools. They're aware of what we look for in school security, what we're aiming for, but we're definitely interested in spreading awareness and keeping our community safe as well. So as a law enforcement officer, I am a firearms instructor. I'm heavily involved in empowering women and also children and, taking up their own safety and being involved in kind of the plan of how they keep themselves safe.
That is
So,
awesome. We did. My household is the same, although I just have one we're empty nesters now, but he's all about the situational awareness. And we started him early, and that's what you have to do. So between Yehuda's books and the entire discussion around situational awareness and being aware in school, we got to talk about the 2-ton elephant in the room, which is how they change schools to where everybody is on their daggum screens, which flows over into the hallways, which flows over into the house, and on and on and on. We will discuss that and how we can deal with that in terms of security when we come back from our first break. Stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
John, you like free mobile service?
I love free mobile service.
Yeah. When was the last time you had the chance to take advantage of getting a free month of wireless service? Exactly. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, hey, Patriot Mobile is where it is at. They back our veterans, they back our first responders and family members. So you get discounts for everything just on top of the phone, whatever you want to do, switch to them today. We've been customers since 2021. And just today, because my grown-up kiddo broke his phone, made a couple of phone calls, bing, bang, boom, had a set up, took advantage of a 20% discount because, law enforcement family. And I got, it literally took 10 minutes to get it set up and prep to ship to him. But what everybody else gets when they call and switch is a free month when they use promo code BADGE. So all you have to do is call 972-PATRIOT, tell them a badge of honor sent you by using promo code BADGE, and you'll get that free month. Also, if you just want to do this online, super easy, patriotmobile.com/badge. You'll be on our landing page. Tell Patriot Mobile what you want, or meaning if you want a new phone, or you can bring your existing phone over. They use the top 3 cell towers, so you are never without service. And guess what? Free roaming throughout the continental United States, because, that's where all the others get their money. But so put your money where your values are. Call Patriot Mobile now. Back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and our lovely guests. Sam, we're going to have to extend this show to about 3 hours because the first 3 minutes of this show, just hearing everybody's bio and what this organization is all about, I have so many questions and so many things to discuss. I don't even know where to start. First off, there is not a soul on this earth that should not be putting their children first priority. And, when I hear some things about certain school resource officers that sit on their desk all day and they play on their phone in the back room until they're called. That's not an omnipresence. That's not something that they should be doing. They should be walking around the school grounds. They should be walking outside. They should be, interacting. But there are a lot of schools out there that they lack in that experience because they are not up to par. When you brought up Uvalde, that is a whole nother thing that, man, I saw some of those videotapes and it was heartbreaking as a law enforcement officer to see other law enforcement officers just worrying more about sanitizing their hands than getting in there and doing a job. So there is a lot of flaws in the system, and Rachel, with you and, with the 7 kids and teaching your children at such a young age and teaching them that situational awareness is amazing, because that's where our kids have to be in this day and age to be safe. and I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Pew pew.
Yehuda, come on.
Yehuda. I didn't want to screw it up. Yehuda, you know, you on all fronts, man, writing children's books about such a controversial issue, I commend you, because that should be in every library. That should be on every desk in the kids in schools. And you know, we rather put transgender shit in kids' schools than teaching them about gun safety. So I commend you on every aspect.
That's
so
just FCC violation one. We get
everything we're going to be bringing up. That's my
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
You know, we're in a culture now that everything is wrong, you know, one side's against the other side. But when it comes to our children, we should have no sides. We should just worry about our children. It doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what you are, you know, the children's safety is first. And, you know, Sam, before we broke, did you want to talk about Uvalde on how bad
it made me as angry as it did. But let's go into, we were talking about situational awareness and the importance of, you know, veterans doing this job and how Matthew introduced Allegiance Project Foundation. Matthew, talk us through creating the foundation, and then specifically why do you want to pull from the veteran community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, with creating the foundation, it was about a 9-month process, and it was connecting with people like Steve, who's on our board of directors. You know, Steve Burris. He did 21 years in the Secret Service. He was an in-house program manager for the Secret Service, instructor at the academy, did basic and control tactics. So Steve has so much experience, 21 years in protective intelligence and doing threat mitigation investigations, all of that stuff. He's a perfect pair for the organization. So really, it was connecting with the people I knew, both veterans and in federal law enforcement, putting our heads together and like thinking, how do we come up with an actual solution to the school violence? Because here's what the Secret Service has done for over 20 years, and they've created reports on school safety, violence, on multidisciplinary threat assessment teams. The Secret Service has been doing this for over 20 years. And why are we not pulling from those resources and trying to get those into schools? And you know, Sam, what the Secret Service does, you don't just watch people in a crowd and grab people out of the crowd. You're essentially making it so you're derailing that person's spiral towards violence, and you're looking for those early warning signs or those early indicators of concerning behavior, and most importantly, getting the help that person needs to prevent from having to introduce them to the criminal justice system. And this is the approach we should be taking with our kids. We shouldn't be trying to put a child who's hurting into jail to solve the problem, because you're not solving the problem, you're solving the potential of violence, but the problem really comes with what that kid's dealing with. So really approaching this problem from a holistic standpoint just made sense. And then the veteran portion, like you asked, these are people who have already answered that call. They've already signed on that dotted line that they were going to serve and protect our country. And we know that these are the men and women that aren't going to run away from gunfight. They're not going to run away from any potential fight. And the exact type of person that we want is actually married to Rachel. So I'll let Rachel introduce and talk about her husband's background. Lewis is our director of operations for the security company. So Rachel, if you don't mind giving his background and talking about what he does and what he did for 21 years, I'd really appreciate that.
Just real quick on Matthew. I just want to jump in. I'm sorry, Rachel. I don't want to cut you off, but a question. You know, I agree with you on mitigating these circumstances before they happen. Why are some schools more proactive than other schools? Where do you see the disconnect? You know, when we see a situation arising, right? A small little basket fire that's arising. Why do we let it burn? Why aren't the schools allowed or to intervene before the situation blows up? Mm-hmm. Is that the issue that we're having?
That's definitely one of the issues. And the answer always lies with the school administration and the superintendent. They're the gatekeepers. They essentially create the rules. They're like the town mayor of the school. So nothing's going to pass without their approval, and no school safety measures are going to be implemented without them saying it's going to be done. So, you have a lot of great school administrators. You have a lot of fantastic superintendents. Then you have a lot of superintendents that have an ego, that it's essentially their way or the highway, and egos and complacency are actually the biggest threats to schools. It's not the violence that we see everywhere, because they have the ability to implement solutions, and a lot of schools have been pushed into this corner where they're on a fixed budget, and then they're on fixed time, having to train their staff in X, Y, and Z, and a lot of schools have their medical training as a 5-10 minute video that the teachers watch. And you're not going to get trained on how to put on a tourniquet from a 5 or 10 minute video. So for a lot of schools, it's just checking a box. And we want to be able to create solutions for schools to where this is a box that they can check with the very best training and security possible, that has a 501c3 behind it that can help fund all of this.
Absolutely. Before we go to Rachel, let's just take our quick break so we can hear the full background. So we'll be right back with Allegiance Project Foundation. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and a host of our guests. Before we broke, we discussed the school safety and the pitfalls and the uplifting on different school districts. So, but Rachel, you're going to tell us, like, you have 7 kids invested into these school districts. So as a mom, and you are a huge voice, a huge advocate to make sure your kids get home safe.
Absolutely. And that's why even when I talk to my children, it first started at home. Again, like I said, we're a very tactical household. We're very aware of what's going on around us. So before our schools even started implementing a lot of these stay safe drills, I'm at work, I'm instructing other law enforcement officers how they're going to respond to active shooter calls, how they're going to respond to building entry. So I bring these home to my kids, and I'm telling them, hey, whenever you hear, we call them signs of stimulus. So when you hear something that doesn't sound right, what do you do? What are you looking for? What's a safe place? What are your chances of surviving if you run? What are your chances of surviving if you hide? What are your chances of surviving if you fight? So we're constantly going through these, even when we're out and about in town. I've taught, I have a lot of daughters. So when we're out grocery shopping, we do implement you don't stay on your phone. It's okay to check your text messages, but when you're walking around, who's not making eye contact? Who's dressed oddly? Who is maybe talking to themselves? What are some signs that maybe somebody's in distress, or maybe some signs that somebody is about to operate with malintent? So these are kind of things that, like, I teach them in how we operate within the world. So even if that's at home, if we're on our walks at night, if we're at the gym, when they're at school, they know these tactics. We also talk about, like, some of the, recently I was walking my daughters through tourniquets, how to use tourniquets, when to use tourniquets. And we actually have a partner that has, like, a automatic tourniquet. And so one of my daughters, I'm telling her about it, and I love her to death. She is super squeamish. She sees blood and she loses her mind. And so she was like, Mama, can you get me the automatic tourniquet? Because I can't deal with the idea of what it's going to take to actually implement this. So I think that's part of one of the steps that we can take is kind of preparing our children for this world that they live in, and to be active in their own safety and their own protection. Something that we've recently talked about are, secondary attacks, because again, at my job, we're talking about, all right, we're training for active shooter. A lot of these schools are starting to implement active shooter drills. So I've talked to my daughters through. I was like, hey, if you were a bad guy and you wanted to hurt as many people as possible, what would you do? So one of my daughters, she actually kind of talked us through, well, if I knew the school would make everybody evacuate out this door, I would go stand by that door. If I knew everybody evacuated out that door, I would park a vehicle with a bomb by that door. And I'm like, okay, so if you ever are in this scenario, what are you looking for? What's the next fight that you're looking for? So we've kind of talked about this. And then with my children, they're very rules are made to be followed. And so they're kind of like, okay, what if the teachers tell us we have to go this direction? I'm like, if you see something that is suspicious, you have my permission to deviate from the plan. Like, if this looks like a bad idea, let's go ahead and deviate from the plan. You're smart, you're using critical thinking skills, you're situationally aware, like you need to be proactive and involved in your own safety.
Yeah, that is, I think we just could end right there.
Yeah,
you just did a whole commercial, but for the foundation. But yeah, you're right. And a lot of the schools are implementing these. I'll just call them ballistic shields, where it shows a video of it's supposed to be a teacher in the video pulling this ballistic shield to make, I guess, harden the classroom, and all the kids are on the inside. Yehuda, I think of you with the tools and the tactics. How do you talk to teachers? You have children's books. How do we get the teachers involved, either reading the children's books to understand more from their level, or understanding, hey, your school has this, but in a real life situation, that's not going to work. It looks like those things are heavy, by the way.
I mean, I think it all comes down to whoever the principal is, right? Because really, teachers will do what the principal says. If the principals or superintendents aren't taking things seriously, then the teachers are not going to take things seriously. At least this is what I've seen. It really comes down to having a proactive leader who is willing to say, okay, guys, this is what we're going to be learning. We're going to be learning about gun safety in case someone finds a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be. We're going to be talking about, first responders. We're going to be talking about, evacuation drills, and we're going to be serious about it. And as soon as you do that, I find that people will follow someone who is willing to stand up. Problem is, we live in a society where everyone's afraid of offending someone. And if you have, let's say, for example, some, you're afraid of offending someone. I mean, the last bunch of shooters have been transgender folk. So, they won't talk about that because you're going to offend someone. Then you're going to get sued, and then you're going to lose your job. I mean, we live in litigation nation. So it's just one of those things that I think the best way to approach teachers is to approach the heads of school and educate them so that they can pass down the knowledge.
What's their accountability? When we talk about active shooter drills and everything else, I know, is there any rhyme or reason on which school are they going to the lowest bidder to train these classes, or are they getting really educated, certified school shooting drills, or are they just going, all right, this security team here from wherever, they'll do it for $500, and it's a couple of retired law enforcement officers that put this thing together. Who has the ultimate accountability if something goes wrong, or if they fail? Is it the principal? Is the school district? Are they on the hook for failures in God forbid something like this happens, or yes, they walk away scot-free?
So the school district is on the hook, and then if they have an ISD police department, that police department is also on the hook. The issue with ISD police departments, I think it's a great solution in theory for getting law enforcement officers into schools full time. The issue is the chief of police isn't the chief of police for the ISD, it's the superintendent. So that chief of police for the ISD police department answers to likely a civilian with an education background who doesn't have a background in law enforcement. So you can imagine the issues that are created with that, and then the egos that and the pride associated to being someone in that position now running a law enforcement agency. So it can be a good thing if done properly, but often it can end up creating more issues than solutions. But in the state of Texas, every school district, every public school district is required to have alert training with law enforcement. So alert is what certifies all law enforcement officers, and every 2 years they have to go through a requal. And it's how do you respond to an active threat? It's basic CQB tactics, getting into the stack, room entry, and all of that. So it gets all of the law enforcement up to speed and speaking the same language, which is good. The issue is school districts that reach out to the lowest bidder, the lowest bidding security company. Those security companies don't have access to alert training because they're not law enforcement. So you have another gap right there. Fortunately, our director of licensing and compliance, Steve, who's also on our board and works for our security company, he's also an alert instructor aside from being in the Secret Service. So we went and got him his certification. That way, the officers that are in our schools can go through the state mandated alert training, which allows us to help schools with state compliance. And that's really all we're trying to do, is helping schools be compliant with House Bill 3 and House Bill 33. House Bill 3 requires armed personnel in every school. House Bill 33 bumped up the pay per school from a whopping $15,000 to $35,000. And it requires ballistic shields in the schools and alert training as well. So all of these things are moving in the right direction. But as you both know, the state is quick to mandate and slow to fund.
Right. Now, when you say requirements, is that one officer per campus, or does it go by? So one officer in charge of, say, 1,200 students and multiple buildings or multiple floors, multiple entrances and exits. That doesn't sound, if someone's planning something, right, they already know that school resource officer, his habits, if he's lazy, if he's proactive. They know the doors. Why do they only? I mean, one seems limited. It seems like it's not enough.
And not only that, John, but you could imagine with your experience in law enforcement, what do you think that law enforcement officer is spending majority of his time doing at a high school or at a junior high? He's dealing with disciplinary issues. Right. He's dealing with drugs. He's dealing with behavioral issues. So it's taking him away from being able to protect that campus.
Correct.
100%.
I saw a thing on the news not too long ago where some veterans, parents, volunteered their time, and they were outside the schools, and they were manning the schools because their kids went there, and they were just volunteering their time because they had they wanted to protect. That was kind of went by the wayside. Did the schools kick these parents off, do you know, or were they told they can't be on school grounds?
Now, you cannot be a volunteer and carry a firearm on a school, on a school campus. You have to be working in some capacity of level 3 security, armed security, or as a Texas peace officer. So when it comes to finding the volunteers, and we hear so many people say, "Oh, well, I'll stand out in front of my kid's school." If it's a public school, the laws in place don't allow for a volunteer to be there because there has to be some form of accountability, and there really should be.
I agree.
Yeah,
I just know what happened.
For private schools, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Where are a lot of the asks in terms of having you come in and talk and introduce your programs? Are they coming from the private sector or the public, or is it a combination of both?
It's definitely the private schools. Private schools are privately funded. We can use our nonprofit to create affiliate donor links for each school, offset their cost of improved security systems. So what we do is we create a link for that school. They pass it out to their parents. They say, we want to raise money for better doors or window film or ballistic paneling, and we can generate funding from that local community to support that school. So you get a lot more willingness from private schools because the parents tend to be a little bit more involved in a private school because they're having to pay for it.
Right.
So it's certainly private schools are asking us, hey, can you create these training videos for our staff? Can you help us with these grants, or can you help us with finding the solutions for X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, and a lot of it is, what we used to call the smoke and mirror effect, because, a lot of parents they're like, oh my God, we're going to have like armed people at our schools, and they freak out because not everybody's comfortable with firearms, right? Yehuda, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Same, yeah. Rachel, with you. So a lot of the parents don't quite understand what goes into, quote unquote, protecting their kids. You just mentioned the ballistic shields, the window film. These are like the small things that any school should be able to do that takes you up, if you're looking at levels of security. Yeah. That right there, putting concrete pylons, depending on what, the drop off, moving your drop off further away, putting those pylons, putting somebody at the end of the driveway, even if they're sitting in a car, unmarked, cameras, that kind of thing. And I just have to say, I just need to get on my soapbox for a minute here, because we've talked about several times the law that came out that says children are no longer allowed to have their mobile devices in the classrooms with them. And that was the worst thing that could have ever been passed, ever, because parents believed, because they were told that it was not about safety and security, it was about a better learning environment. Well, I have news for you, and Rachel, as a mom, if I have kids in the school, and thank goodness mine's out, I want my kid to have direct contact with me. And they took it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that note, because, one, I'll say, I don't have kids in school anymore either, but you know what? There are certain kids that abuse that. And I could see the checks and balances with this, where now kids are using AI, they're using all this stuff, they're spending more time on their phone than they are in education. So I'm just playing devil's advocate on that end. So instead of holding those kids accountable, or having a teacher that's going to be more attentive to say, put your phone down.
Oh, you mean right? Discipline?
Oh, yeah. We don't have that anymore.
D word.
But that's, these are all little potholes in our school system that, erupt into a big, sinkhole when an issue happens. And, it's not just one thing, it's multitude of things over a period of time that transcend into this. And, I know my daughter is a school teacher. She teaches 4th grade. And we have this discussion sometimes. She's like, the school district's only in, the STAR program. They only care about passing the STAR program. This way they can get budgeting for next year. The education portion, they don't even care about. They want to care about the STAR and make sure every kid passes the STAR program. They don't care about safety. They don't care about education. They just want the next budget for the next year. And that's a critical flaw in our educational system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've essentially taken the power away from parents and communities, and we've empowered schools to be the parent and caretaker of children. And it takes more parents like Rachel and Yehuda to make real change, because they're heavily involved with their children's lives. So a big part of the solution, we hear people ask, what's the solution to school safety? And it's a 4-dimensional solution, and you're asking a 1-dimensional problem. So it's a multifaceted issue that starts in the household. And it really does start in the community. So you have wonderful parents like Rachel and Yehuda that are actually being involved in their kids' lives and telling their children about situational awareness, how to use tourniquets, how to be safe, how to identify threats, and you're creating that solution from the ground up. So realistically, the issue starts in the household, and it's more parents holding their school boards accountable.
Have you had backlash from parents?
No.
My next question. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had any backlash from parents. There's always the parents that say, well, it's sad that we're at this point. It's sad that we have to do this. And I remind them it would be more sad if there weren't people willing to answer the call.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a sad situation. It absolutely is. But we have plenty of veterans out there who have served our country that are ready to stand in that gap and be that source of protection and those eyes and ears for that school.
And so many of our veterans out there want to continue with their purpose. They're cut by that cloth. They want to keep serving their country, their community, their city, and their states. Let's give them that chance to do it.
Absolutely.
100%. We got to take our last quick break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned, everybody.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance we'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam on this Mental Health Monday. We are talking school safety and our veterans with the group from Allegiance Project. Matthew, before we broke, we were talking about how, some school districts act like the bad HOAs, and it's all about, your lawn is an eighth of an inch, but they don't care about the meth house down the block. Right. We got to take a bigger focus, and I'm glad you guys, all of you, are bringing this back to, bringing it to the front lines, especially with the Pew Pew the Jew there, bring in that book. I love that because gun safety starts at home. I taught my daughter at a young age, when I got on the job, my gun was sitting on the counter, and I said, come on, let's go in the bedroom. We're going to take it apart. We're going to put it back together. I'm going to show you everything. And she never touched that gun again. It took the curiosity right out of it. Now parents are so afraid of guns. They're so afraid of teaching their kids something, but it really confuses me because I come from a different era. I don't know how people raise their kids anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did the same thing with my kiddo as well. Let's just one piece from each of you. One big piece of advice that you could give to parents, whoever wants to start.
I'll go ahead and start real quick. It's get involved. If you have students in school, public or private, everything that you do in life is for your kids. You go to work every day, and I've heard Rachel say this, like her children are her reason why she gets up and goes to work every single day. And if we had more parents hearing that call to action and understanding that there was actually a solution that they could get behind, and that there was a way for them to take back school safety, because I think so many parents feel helpless and they think, well, I'm at the mercy of the school district or the superintendent that is going to do whatever they're going to do, and I don't have a say in that. It's like, no, you absolutely do have a say. Start going to those school board meetings and start talking to the headship of your children's school board. So get involved, and then if you are going to support something, feel free to reach out to us and find out how you can work with us and get us into your children's school district. We need the support to continue to grow what we're doing in the state of Texas. And we need more parents to stand up and say, well, my children they're important enough for me to actually get involved and to take the time out of my busy week to get involved with their school and find out what their school is actually doing to protect their kids.
100%. 100%. What about you, Rachel?
I would similar. So for me, I'm law enforcement, so I have the privilege of carrying 24/7. Anytime I could take a lunch break, anytime I could volunteer at my kid's school, I would take lunch duty. I would read books to the class. Unapologetically, I was there as a special agent. I was armed. It was noted, like the teachers knew, administration knew. Very happy to have have my presence. Our school, we have a number of law enforcement parents, and it was the same thing. It was and this was prior to a lot of the Texas legislation where it was, we can't be here full time because we do have full job, like we have our own careers, but as much time as we can spend, as much presence as we can be at the school, we want people to know that like these are our valuable assets, and we're going to be present. We're going to be doing car line whenever it's possible. We're going to make sure that anybody that sees our school is going to see that this is not an easy target. So that kind of goes to parents. If you don't have the ability to be the armed presence at school, be a voice to administration and let them know, hey, we are interested. We are looking for a solution. We want to be involved, engage a company such as ours, a foundation such as ours, so that we can be a partner in helping to secure schools, to provide highly trained individuals who are very dedicated to the mission. They've protected our country on foreign land. Of course, they're going to protect the homeland given the opportunity. So we'd love to get involved in any school that wants a presence.
Awesome. Yehuda.
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that education starts at home. So if you want to see changes at school, you need to start changing things at home. And what I mean by that is I was at a gun store. I was at Mr. Guns, and this was a year and a half ago, give or take. And a guy comes up to me, a Jewish guy comes up to me, and he goes, I just bought my first gun. I don't want to carry. I know who you are. Convince me to carry a gun. And I basically turned to him. I'm like, okay. And I said to him, I'm like, are you married? He said, yes. I'm like, do you have kids? He said, yes. I said, do you love your wife and kids? He said, yes. I said, are you willing to do whatever is necessary to protect them? He said, yes. I said, you're a liar. And he was totally caught off guard that I called him a liar to his face. And he said, how can you call me a liar? I said, because you're here asking me to convince you to carry a gun. If you really truly cared about them, that wouldn't even be a question.
Right.
And he looked at me, and I'm not lying to you. He looked at me, he goes, son of a bitch, I'm going to start carrying a gun.
And get some training.
Right. And get some training. But my point, though, is that if you want to see the change in the school and you expect people to put their lives on the line for your kids in a school, you better be willing to do the same thing outside of a school. And if you're not willing to do it, then you're not going to be invested in your kids' safety in school.
Yep.
Amen.
Getting back what Rachel said real quick, for those non-pistol permitted holders or law enforcement, for the civilians out there, get it on record that you voiced your opinion to that school district. Because a lot of schools.
Oh, it's on record. It's recorded.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, make sure you do that. Just don't say it and then walk away. Make sure someone's documenting you have a concern, because God forbid something happens, that concern is going to be addressed at a higher level if something bad happens. So, speak your mind, man. Get it out there.
100%. Hey, Matthew, what's the best way for people to reach you? I've got the website up, allegianceproject.org. For those of you listening on your favorite podcast app, that's allegianceproject.org. Where do you guys play on social, and what are your handles?
So we are on X is our primary focus, because it's a great free speech platform. We're on Instagram, so find us on there. X, it's at APF Nonprofit, and that Instagram, it's allegiance.project. And obviously, if you're a school or if you're a parent and you want to support, if you're a veteran and you want to get involved, reach out to us at allegianceproject.org. Go to the contact us page, and that'll go directly to us. Anything you're looking to do, whether that's provide support, we're looking to raise money right now for advanced alerting systems for school staff and for advanced training systems for law enforcement and for schools. And then if you're a church or a private school and you're looking for better security or even consulting, reach out to us at allegianceproject.com. That is our security company's website, Allegiance Project Security. You can get in touch with us there. Give us 15 minutes and we can go through and we could set up a risk assessment for your facility. We can talk about consulting, providing better avenues for just security in general, but also advanced training as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming on tonight and sharing with us. Your backgrounds speak for themselves, and I hope you guys have a lot of people, a lot of parents and veterans knocking on the door to help you all out and to get you in the schools.
We definitely need a part 2.
Absolutely.
We definitely need a part 2, because what I want to do is I want to start calling out the failures in the system.
Okay.
All right, put those people on blast.
All right. So if you're watching a Badge of Honor TV, we will have a part 2 follow-up to this program and talk about the failures that need to be addressed with Matthew, Yehuda, Rachel, and maybe we'll bring some other folks on to part 2. Huh?
Rachel's husband.
There we go. Well, we have room. Despite the screen looking small, we just get smaller to put more boxes up.
I can share space with them.
The more the better.
There you go. Thank you guys so much again for coming on, and I'll be in touch to schedule that part 2 with you all. Be safe out there. We appreciate what you're doing very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam and John. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. We'll be in touch. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Oh man.
Yes, man.
Hey, it's one of my favorite topics because it's just coming from my background. Like, you better have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, because physical security is ingrained into our brains. That's how people don't die. So we want to do that for the schools, because that's where our kiddos are.
Well, it really broke my heart, and we didn't know, we only had an hour, but I wanted to get into that Uvalde thing, because those videos really broke my heart.
Heart-wrenching. Yeah. I remember screaming at the screen.
Oh, yeah. And, that right there was the ultimate failure in something. And if they released any other footage of these other school shootings, I am sure there were lots of failures in those with security and the presence of security, because how people got into those hallways, how they got down there so fast.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of failures in all these schools that we've had multiple deaths.
Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to a part 2 with the Allegiance Project Foundation. Hey, we've got I'll say we got warriors behind our coffee. Our partners at East Texas Legends Coffee, right here over in my neck of the woods in East Texas. Founded by Ben and Amanda Holmes, reflects their journey from Ben's Marine Corps service and law enforcement career, overcoming post-traumatic stress to finding purpose in ranching. Relocating to an East Texas ranch, they identified a need for a local coffee brand. Now they're opening their first coffee shop in Lindale, Texas, rooted in faith, family, and community. Their mission: inspire purposeful conversations over coffee. So drink coffee, be legendary. Go to etxlegendscoffee.com. and use promo code BADGE for 15% off. Or you could just hold your phone up to this wonderful QR code right here and grab yourself some coffee, some merch, whatever it looks like. Cheers.
Well, I don't have the merch anymore. It's still at my daughter's house.
Okay. Well, you'll get your merch back soon. But grab the coffee. And you know what? Right now, we are go over to our website. Because at a badgeofhonor.org, we are nonprofit partners with Carry the Load. Macy's very excited about that. And Carry the Load is all about first responders, veterans, and family members of. We've got the Dallas Memorial March coming up the end of May over Memorial Day weekend. That is the Saturday and Sunday and Monday. at Reverchon Park, but we need your help. We need you to go to our website. We need you to click on the pop-up there and decide to either be part of our team to help us raise money, or if you just want to give a direct donation, that's fine as well. All the money that we raise that goes through Carry the Load comes back to us. So we turn it into and push it right out into our program. So it's 100% back to our veterans and first responders, so that they don't fall into the same holes as we did on our PTS journey. So it's a huge awareness piece for them when we go into the departments and do our programming. So please, again, that's the Carry the Load through a badgeofhonor.org. Go over there and click that donate button. We've also got our friends at Responder Retreat coming up September 28th through October 2nd in Three Lakes, Wisconsin. FirstRespondersRetreat.org to register there. They sold out last year. It was incredible. They're going to have, they already have spots taken. Even though we're talking about September into October, you want to secure your spot there. Hang out with fellow first responders. It is the ultimate form of peer support, ability to just talk about whatever you want in the beautiful Three Lakes, Wisconsin area. To all of our first responders out there, thank you for doing what you do every single day to protect our communities. We have got huge prayer warriors out there, making sure you get home safe every single night. To our veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show like this every single week. To our active duty personnel spread out across the globe right now, we are praying for you as well. Hold strong. You have an entire nation. Don't listen to the stupid news. You have a nation united behind you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for keeping our shores safe here at home. John, take us home.
All right. If you have a voice, you want to use your voice. If we can get these idiots to get out there, 1 million plus, to do No Kings protest, let's get out there for our school safety and protect our children. You know what? We have a voice just as much as these idiots. So get out there and support. Your child's life may hang in the balance.
Absolutely. Till next week, everybody. Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.